This looks like the worst Photoshop. This picture?
Not even Photoshop.
No, it's not.
Crazy.
Okay, let me
It doesn't look like bad Photoshop. This looks like our YouTube thumbnails.
Israel braces for strike as pressure mounts for ceasefire deal. So this is a pretty big deal because there's been vague like political unrest in Israel every now and then. Like there was the one a couple of months ago just about like changes to the judiciary. Like not really Gaza related. You know, regardless of the fact that they were killing like 40,000 people.
Yeah.
The main issue was like, you know, minute details of their parliamentary democracy. But it seems like there's actually some pretty big protests now.
Massive. It was tens of thousands of people, wasn't it?
Yeah. And it's it passed after 6 dead hostages were found. So I think this was one of them, who's an American citizen as well.
Yep.
And I guess this is another one of the hostages.
It's obviously absolutely horrible that, you know, these people have been killed. But it's crazy to me that people are only protesting when 6 people are killed when you've got tens of thousands of people that are constantly getting killed. Yeah. What they need to do is, like, it's clear people only care because they're Jewish.
Yeah. Well,
so they're from Israel, or we need to do DNA tests. You know how I found out I was 3% Jewish?
Yeah, that's right. You're Jewish.
We just need to show everyone's Jewish, or everyone's related in some way. Then suddenly everyone will care. That's what I think we need to do.
That's very big brain thinking.
Thank you. Coming up with new solutions.
I just think it's wild that, I don't know. I think these dual citizens are quite interesting because, like, I don't know. You're on one hand, you're like a Israeli who has a right to the land. On the other hand, you're like an American who was wrongfully killed by a terrorist organization.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like, man, you got to pick.
Yeah,
you can't be an everywhere guy.
So did he come there to steal land?
I think he was IDF. Yeah,
he was IDF.
Yeah, but everyone's IDF.
I'm not IDF.
You're 3% Jewish. I think it's like, isn't it compulsory military service? It is.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Everyone is IDF.
But so what? Also, we're gonna signpost what we're gonna do today because we've got a fucking insane game coming up. That Alex came up with a few seconds ago.
Yep.
It's
came up with the idea of, inspired by, if you know who Hamish and Andy were, they played a game where they went, they flew to a different country and they were blindfolded the whole time, and then they had to work out where they are. We're going to play GeoGuessr, but blindfolded.
So one of us is blindfolded and the other one can just describe what they're seeing.
Which is going to be, I think it's going to be impossible, but we're going to try blindfolded GeoGuessr.
I think we're the worst duo for this because we have completely different things that we understand about geography. Like, he knows all the flora and fauna. He will say something like, "Oh, it's a deciduous, fucking what is it called? Non-conifer."
Yeah, exactly.
And I'll just be like, "Oh, thanks, Alex." That really narrows it down.
Just helping out, and you just read. He can read everybody. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
jealous.
Does that make sense? That type of tree?
A deciduous, non-conifers are non-deciduous.
Oh,
so
damn.
Yes.
Wait, no. I said deciduous, non-conifer.
A non-conifer
is a deciduous.
Most trees are deciduous.
Oh, okay.
Well, not most, but a lot. So everyone's protesting.
Well, yeah,
and calling for his resignation. Resignation is what I meant to say.
I mean, the one thing I feel about this, which is weird, is that just like they're honing in on Netanyahu, who's like, look, I don't like him.
Yeah,
no one likes him. But it's just funny to think of him as like this. Oh, it's unique. If he wasn't here, man, we wouldn't be having problems in Gaza. Like, this would be.
But are they suggesting that he didn't kill enough people to save the hostages? Like, what do the protesters want?
I think they actually like this is a bit more. Yeah, this is a bit more mature than some of the previous protesters. And it was obvious. Like, they did a massive hostage exchange where they did the last ceasefire. You had like all the hostages dabbing up the Hamas guys as they came out of the transport vehicle. It's like, if you actually want the hostages released, which ostensibly he's meant to want, then that's the way you do it.
Yeah, of course.
Right? But that's not what he wants.
No, you negotiate, kill less people.
Yeah, but I think what they want is terrorism. They want to, I don't know, cleanse people from Gaza.
Oh yeah,
solve the problem once and for all. No more Palestinians. We can settle it. It can be like a beautiful beachside resort, and we don't have to worry about this ever again.
Yeah. But also, if you want people to kill hostages that they have, there's probably no better way to do that than shooting and bombing their area, because they're left with not no choice, but it's more likely to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they're killed in airstrikes.
Yeah, it's
like,
crazy.
What do you mean? You're bombing like a whole. Gaza's not that big.
It's like they were doing the Russian strategy of they're like, oh, if you take a school full of children hostage, we're just going to drive our tanks into it and kill everyone.
Very clever. Yeah, so he's prolonging the war rather than prioritizing the safe return of roughly 100 remaining hostages in Gaza. It's funny. I mean, like, obviously, I guess the society's divided. Not everyone loves the genocide. But, there are a lot of people in the Knesset, a lot of, like, far-right people who love this, who love the idea of Israel finally getting rid of all the Palestinians. Like, and I think that's who Netanyahu was leaning on. It's just like, great, these hostages are a great excuse to fulfill our, political goals.
Yeah.
Obviously, it doesn't work because he's not going to get the hostages released that way.
No, not at all. But it's also, you are so right about it being strange just calling for his resignation.
He's obsessed with power. It's just
like, no, this has been happening for 100 years. Like,
exactly.
What are you talking about? This is nothing. Can Israel resign, please?
Yeah.
All of Israel? Like.
Oh, my God. Gaza is unlivable. It'll take decades to clean the rubble. Like, it's crazy. The whole thing's fucked. But yeah, it's pretty big protest. And what's nuts is that they're using the skunk cannon on them. They're like, all the kind of like militarized Israeli stuff that these people love is obviously turned against them as soon as they start challenging the kind of core of Zionism.
Skunk water cannon is crazy because a water cannon is already powerful enough to just kill a person by itself.
Yeah.
And then they're like, and we're also going to make it stinky.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Well, it's not just stinky. It's irritating. Like it's
sewage,
a chemical.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I thought it's crazy. Can we show the skunk cannons?
Yeah, I think
there was great footage of a man getting
skunked.
Getting skunked. He was sitting on a fence and he got skunked, but he did a roll and he landed on his feet.
That's amazing.
It was impressive.
It seems pretty big.
It's massive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's nice. If they go on strike, that's actually huge. Like, then it'll make it very, very difficult for the Israeli government to continue.
Well,
so
I'm just surprised that the Israeli government didn't see a crowd of this many people and wasn't like, oh, got a little trigger happy,
Oh, right. Because usually when they see this,
when they see a crowd or a market, they're just like, well, this
looks like there's a terrorist in there.
It looked like one of those people could be Hamas.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure one of those
people
was
are
Hamas.
Hamas.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like, I mean, we'll get onto that later, but there was so Israeli media, it's a funny kind of glitch that we have in our global empire in that there's a bit more democratic freedom in Israel to talk about Israeli crimes than there is in the Imperial core in the US or Australia. Like, we don't criticize it at all. But it's funny, like this guy's comparing, Mohammed Shehada is saying that Israel admits Netanyahu is the one refusing the deal. Okay, so like, we're all like, Hamas, they won't release hostages. In Israeli media, yeah, they're quite critical of Netanyahu and his policies about it. For the worst, the state of Israel condemns them to death. Like, it's our government's fault that these hostages are dying. Yeah. The claim that only military pressure will bring back the abductees was never true. Now it's unfounded. Chaotic conflict of management and political considerations rudely invaded our holy spot. Look, some translations work. Some of them don't. I don't know what this is. The CNN correspondent is saying they were Hamas. So, like, this is what they're talking about in Israel. They're just like, look, the government's let us down. We want the release of the hostages. They're not going to do it. Yeah. All of this is just like a weird excuse to do more militarism to, kick these guys out. And then CNN is just like, these like tens of thousands Israeli protesters are actually Hamas.
Yep.
We've been pulverizing Gaza for almost a year now.
And they've escaped.
All the people are dead. And now they've only grown. And now you're going to have to start bombing Israel yourself.
And now they're flying Israeli flags.
Yep.
That's
crazy.
That's
the best disguise.
That is a good disguise.
Well, they've disguised themselves as women. They've disguised themselves as children. They're going to disguise themselves as Israelis.
He can shapeshift into anyone.
They're Zionists now.
Yeah,
wow. So shit. This is an example of the kind of police cracking down on them. So it's funny. It's like, well, it's not, none of it's funny, but it's like, you've got this militarized police force that's used primarily in the West Bank, previously in Gaza, but now that's just the military, to just like crack down on innocent civilians and fuck them up, to promote the goal of Zionism and settlements. And like once you as an Israeli acts up, like they'll just turn that same apparatus on you. And you become a Palestinian.
I mean, you say that, but they're not.
No, they're not
missile striking or.
Well, it's like similar to the stuff they do on the West Bank.
Yeah.
I've never seen a stun grenade to any of the protests I've been to. Do they use them here?
I've seen tear gas once. What are you doing?
No idea.
Yeah, it's crazy that they have so many people in the military that they also have enough to just like actually squash tens of thousands of protesters.
Yeah.
Like they're that well funded.
I remember this one. It's so nuts. Soldiers did point blank shots, shoot hostages while waving a white flag and calling for help in Hebrew. So they you remember that when two of the hostages were released and they came out of rubble, two Israeli guys waving white flags, and the IDF shot him.
I mean, they love shooting defenseless people. So
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Now, on one side we have all this anger about Israeli hostages not being released, but obviously the long-running thing, it's whatever. It's bad. It's bad to take civilian hostages, but it's interesting to look at the other side of the coin that Palestinians have been taken hostage at much larger levels consistently forever. Outside of October 7th, just constantly, there are thousands and thousands of these people. A lot of them are kids.
But they don't. The annoying thing about the word hostage is kind of used in a similar way to terrorist, where you use it to describe what your enemies do. Like if you imprison someone for a crime, they are your hostage.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Like everyone that the police arrest
are hostages.
They're hostages. So it's just terminology that's only thrown around on one side. It's yes, all the Palestinians in jail are hostages.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Sorry, someone said something about CPAC. We were talking about that before and we forgot about it. We should look that up.
Well, if there's a new one.
There's an Aussie CPAC happening soon in Brisbane.
Right. Well, there was land forces that someone mentioned, which I went to for the arms dealer.
But CPAC, we weren't allowed to go to it last time. We got into CPAC.
We had press passes. We had everything squared away.
We had interviews with Tony Abbott and Pauline Hanson lined up.
Yeah. It's so annoying, but it was at Star Casino,
which we're banned from.
Yeah, so we might remember it from our COVID video. We're not allowed to go in there anymore, and we thought whatever, this is a completely different event. We can just rock up. It doesn't matter. And we went to the we got past everything. No one stopped us. We came in, got our lanyards, our media lanyards. We're ready to go. And then just before we walked in, someone's like, "Oh, can I talk to you guys?"
We were going up the escalator to we saw the final door. We saw the lights of the venue. And then security grabbed us.
Yeah, they grabbed us and they were just like, "Oh, our facial recognition cameras have picked up your faces and you're not meant to be here." Yeah. And they got our IDs and they kicked us out. It's actually just kind of funny how well oiled our kind of surveillance infrastructure is.
Well, in the casino.
Yeah. Well, just anywhere. It's there are places where you tolerate it. Because people talk a lot about China and social credit and cameras tracking you and stuff. And it's just this exists everywhere. We're just more comfortable with it used by a private corporation than by government.
Yeah. And then stupidly on the way out, because I think the reason we got through so far was that the cameras didn't pick up our faces that well. But then as we were leaving, they stopped again and there were some cops there as well. And then they were like, "Can you please stare at the cameras?" So they took another photo of our face. We shouldn't have done that.
No, we should have just left.
We should have left. Yeah.
Well, I think I was just in shock because I was so close to getting in that I wasn't really.
I was also just impressed that cameras picked up my face. It's I didn't know that you could do this.
But yeah, it's nuts. You just walking around, they can ping you. They know who you are, and it's it makes you wonder how much of this is happening, and you're not being pulled up. You're just walking around "Oh, this is this guy. He's been in this establishment at these days. He spent this much a month ago."
Bad Pikachu said you need a makeup artist to give you a disguise. We were talking about that, and it doesn't have to be complicated because I think what they do is they measure the length of your nose, the width between your eyes. So you could just change a couple of things, make your nose a couple of mils wider, and maybe you could get past. But they still have our names.
Yeah, but the thing is they didn't check our IDs coming in.
No.
That's the nicest part about this conference. But maybe this CPAC is somewhere else. If it is, we'll go.
Yeah, I think it is. We should look it up after this. Sorry, you were saying.
Yeah, well, okay. So like, we got these Israeli hostages. Everyone's quite upset that they're still in captivity and the Israeli government is bombing them. But yeah, let's check in and see what's happening with Palestinian hostages. This is a picture of this guy. Let's not.
You already showed that. But...
Yeah. Let's abuse and torture all the hostages. 700 arrests of children have been documented by the Palestinian Prisoner Society since October 7th. That's insane. 700 kids have been arrested.
And what are the reasons? What would they?
Oh, they probably threw a rock, or they just looked at them the wrong way,
or they waved a white flag.
Yeah, that's provocative. That's provocative. Yeah, it's fucking nuts. A Palestinian child will likely experience every abuse tactic you can think of. The forces have used them on Palestinian children for many years. Oh, God. The prison's unlivable. He had vitamin, iron, and calcium deficiencies. I would ask for medical treatment every single day, but no doctors showed up. They didn't even exist in the prison. Yeah, it was nuts. When you see those like comparison side-by-side photos of like Israeli, like the October 7th hostages upon release and like a Palestinian prisoner on release. And like this person's like emaciated, they've got like the crazy like twitchy eyes.
Yeah. You're talking about the girl that was recently.
Well, the girl's released.
Yeah.
And then they have a picture of a guy from an Israeli prison.
Yeah, it's fucking insane. Welcome, Hassan.
Hassan people are here.
Flag people.
Welcome to the real leftists.
You got sick of him playing whatever it's called, Black Wukong, or did you just finish stream? Wukong. I've got an article about that later.
Yeah, I'm excited. And we could even play it later if you guys want. Or maybe we've had enough.
No, let's play our GeoGuessr game.
That's much better. So, I've had white rice. That's your diet.
I love white rice. Sometimes it was overcooked. Undercooked.
You'd be chewing it.
Undercooked is so bad. Oh, that's the worst kind of torture.
Undercooked white rice.
Undercooked white rice. That tastes like brown rice.
You don't even get water. They're drinking contaminated water from the bathroom. The Israeli prison authorities shut down the canteen where prisoners could buy food and basic supplies and removed electrical devices, including hot plates and kettles. Yeah, I mean, that's very clear what they're doing here.
It's crazy. And the thing is, they probably don't even know, like the family members.
You have no idea if your kid's alive or not.
Yeah. You can't communicate with anyone there. Like, fucking insane. Mo had hoped Hussein
would
be released in November when Israel and Hamas reached a temporary ceasefire agreement that included the exchange of dozens of Palestinian prisoners with some of the captives held in Gaza.
The prime of childhood, now the rest of his life.
No, I'm so fucking sick of hearing. Obviously, it's not the appropriate thing to say. I'm sick of hearing about it, but it's just so depressing and nothing changes.
Yeah.
It's like that almost happens every time there's a war. It's so overwhelming for everyone to listen to the news so much because it's so depressing that people do just switch off. You know, it's like just so brutal.
But also, it also becomes monotonous for a lot of like media.
Oh yeah, well, because
they want like a new sensational story, and I mean these stories are bad for multiple reasons. Firstly, because it's very repetitive because Israel just keeps doing these crimes. Yeah. But the other reason it's bad is because you don't want to offend Israel if you're media in the West. Like,
yeah,
and that's our colonial project, and you can't fucking criticize them.
And I think that's in some reasons why the Daily Mail can report things better than the ABC, which is the Australian Broadcasting Channel, because the ABC cares more about their alliance with Israel than the clickbait and clicks they get, whereas the Daily Mail cares more about getting big clicks. So obviously, if there is a horrific airstrike, they're like, we're going to report about this because people on Facebook mums will click on it, you know?
Yeah. Anyway, this is fucked. I don't even know what to say. But yeah,